we're not going anywhere, Scott. We're going to stay with you.
Cool. No, that's just for the download at the end. But good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode
Morning, Scott.
of Take a Knee. Here I'm Scott Tucker with Captain Mike Wallace and our friend Captain Craig Snyder. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This morning. Mike, topic today I think is very exciting. We've already kind of went on for about 10 minutes and had a lot of good discussion very quickly. So I'd love to rehash a lot of those points. But at the end there, Mike, you kind of said, meaningful point, what's the topic of today's show? Yeah, we want to talk about the idea of side hustles or breaking out and checking out different hobbies or experiences as they become available after military retirement. But you mentioned the whole weight on your shoulders. That is just, what happens when you're getting out and how do you address that? So, Mike, if you want to introduce Craig and kind of talk about your thoughts on, why this is going to be an awesome conversation.
Well, thanks for kicking us off, Scott. And again, just for the listeners, right, just probably not more than 2 minutes ago, we were into a really good conversation and Scott was chiming in going, hey, wait, we haven't gone live yet, right? And we go, hey, we know that, right? So, but again, let me introduce a good friend of mine, Craig Snyder, right? And Craig and I have known each other for a number of years. Backgrounds in the big fighter, right? In the F-14 on naval aviation side. Craig's retired naval captain, right? Aviator, senior leader. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of his pursuits, right? It's interesting. He pursued the airlines like many drivers will get out and pursue that. But really of interest, right, is a side hustle in his life, right? In the real estate arena, and we'll let him kind of build out that side picture a little bit. But what I find intriguing is how you have found fulfillment, right, as you go forward in life, and where you were pursuing primarily, an airline as your primary pursuit, right? Now your side hustle has really been fulfilling, right? And you are really active in that, and that's an interesting discussion where that has kind of, I don't know if it's quite tipped the scales in one way or certainly on equal footing, as you continue to build it out and find fulfillment, right, in your life and exciting things to kind of do. So Scott and I are always interested in topics like that, Craig. Welcome. Thank you for making the time to join us, right? And again, we don't really overthink these things. We just get together and we have some interesting topics that we know our members will find interesting too. As you've been affiliated with many of our Blue Water events and our Blue Water members, where these individuals do step into career progression, just like each of us have done. We've stepped into transition, and it can be a little bit of a daunting task, right? As you're stepping in there going, oh my gosh, I'm not really sure what I'm going to pursue, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to find my fulfillment, my next success. What does that look like? And there's a lot of pressure, I think, that a lot of our members and all of us probably experienced as we're navigating that space and feeling like, hey, I've got to get it right. This has to be the 100% answer. This has to happen, right, the first time. And the fact of the matter is there are no really wrong decisions. There are no one-way doors in this new pursuit, right? There's none of that is not irreversible, right? If you want to say it that way, right? Think about it. So, Craig, again, welcome. We're happy to have you and happy to have you to the show. So thanks for making the time.
Well, thanks for having me. It's interesting. You keyed a few things in my head when you talked about fulfillment. And I think I'd like to talk about that a little bit and see where the reward is in my life. And that is something that I definitely, basically, I think the right word is, personal growth is probably the best way to think about it as you, you realize the older you get, the more you realize you don't know. And you learn more about life and even yourself, even as you progress into your retirement years, right?
Yeah.
But, well, tell you what, if you don't mind, I'll just kick off. You mentioned the fulfillment thing. I think one of the things that many of us, as we retire, if you're a career naval officer and you have spent your entire life in naval aviation, even a tour in ship's company or the joint staff, you're still really in naval aviation the whole time. And you get out and like me, you kind of have an identity.
Yeah.
And that is hard to let go of, especially if you don't want to, right? And many of us have our identity. My tagline, my motto is, I'm in real estate and I'm your real estate wingman, right? That's who I am. And it's funny because that's kind of my identity. That's who I am. I'm an aviator. Look at my wall behind me is a whole bunch of pictures of airplanes. I mean, these things were actually in the Smithsonian. They got rid of it and we got a hold of them. Really neat stuff, right? So this is my identity. So you sit there and you get out of the Navy, you retire, and you say, what am I going to go do? Well, sometimes.
Or who am I? Right?
Who am I? That is the question. You're right. Who am I? And you go, I have an identity and I have to find a way to provide for my family or that fits my identity, maybe, or I have to do something that continues to give me personal fulfillment and enjoyment in life. And I will make a stretch that says that most of us are kind of high type A personalities, some more than others, right? And so we don't sit still. I'm not the type of guy who, I mean, yes, I have a beard right now. That's only because I haven't flown airlines in 10 days, right? And so this thing's growing out. It's going to have to come out.
Yeah, I love the timing worked out for you to make the networking event later today too. So
and I'll be at the networking event later today, which is the first time in like 6 months, right?
I love it.
So you get out, you have a personal brand, you have an identity. Well, you have a brand, you have an identity, and you kind of have to figure out where your next career fits in that. And I know that my entire life in the Navy, we'll say out of the 24 years I spent on active duty, I think I spent 23 of them saying I would never be an airline pilot. And every year I would go to Tailhook and I would walk up and down, like, you know, how you got all the vendors up and down and everybody's wearing their khaki slacks and their red polo with the thing. And like they're selling missiles and stuff to people who are never going to buy them. And I'm walking down Tailhook and I'm just like, excuse me, can I have everybody's attention? In about 2 years, I'll be working for one of you guys. I'm collecting business cards, you know, and that's what I would do. I would walk around and just start collecting business cards at Tailhook.
Look at
that's
me.
What I thought I was
why would you not love me? Come on. Here we go.
Right. Exactly. Have you met this? This is what you want. This is I've even got the Naval Academy shirt going, right? You know, and so we kind of have all that, and that's fine. I mean, many of us, that's what we do because it's a natural progression. And the airlines are just a different facet of that. You go, I'm really good at flying. Let me go leave fighter aviation where I am, you know, doing all this stuff and I know everything about OpNav and the NAMP and everything else that I know about.
It's a comfort thing, right?
Carrier aviation.
A little bit. It's comfortable.
It's very comfortable. And then you sit there and you go, well, going on to fly a 737 or the Airbus, that can't be that much different. It's a little bit different, but in the end, you're like, wow, it's similar. It's different. Yeah. It's an easy transition for many of us. I will say though, that I discovered that, you know, the fulfillment in my life was from other places. My wife and I made a deal when I retired out of the Navy. So first off, that conversation went, I came home from work one day I was at Fleet Forces. So I'm at Fleet Forces and I come home one day and I say, by the way, I dropped my letter. And she goes, you did what? I said, I dropped my letter. I'm getting out.
What?
And her first response was, you know, you've tried this before. You've tried this before. It didn't take. And I'm going, no, I'm serious this time. I mean it. So I get out and she says, okay, well, you get out. That's fine. But you're not allowed to you're going to go find a job. You're not allowed to take a second one for at least 6 months. And because she knows me. She seriously said that to me. She goes, you're not allowed to take a second job for at least 6 months. I'm like, fine. So, you know, or actually, I think she said a year. Like she said a year. That's what it was. It was a year because I got around that because at the 6 month point, I volunteered for the pilots union. I'm like, not a job. It's volunteer work. And so next thing you know, a volunteer. Well, being people like us, what's my identity? My identity is to aviation, be in charge. You know, when you've done this a long time and you're accustomed to being, you know, responsible and accountable, you are attracted to that. And so you're looking for things that rhyme with that. And so like I ended up joining something at our airline where we have a program for mentoring new people who come on board. And so I started doing that. Most people don't start doing that until they've been at the airline 3, 4, 8, 10 years. Right. And I'm doing it at 6 months because I'm like, I can do this. And then within 6 months, my boss calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm going to step down. Actually, I'm going to expand and go do something else. I want you to take my job." I'm like, "Whoa, crank call." How'd that happen? Next thing, by the end of the phone call, 20 minutes later, I've just been promoted to a national level job at the union, right? I'm like, how did that happen, right? This is not what
You
I said.
didn't say no.
Because, yeah, this is what you do. And so things like that happen. And next thing you know, for 4 years, I'm running this thing, that I'm like, holy cow, it was crazy. In the end, what it was I ended up becoming the guy who ran the ran the mentoring program for the mentors. So I had like 250 pilots working for me. I'll put that in air quotes because they didn't really work for me because they're volunteers, and I just got to help them, and they helped the other 1,000 a year that came. It was crazy, right? How did that happen? Well, it's because that's who we are, and it's kind of what happens. So then, that's a thing. And then, of course, what happens to getting into what really I found joy with, that was okay, was we started
So Craig, can I ask you just a quick question? Yeah. So had you at this point even considered, a side hustle in real estate? I mean,
no.
Was that even a thought? Or
well, that's right where I was getting to, because at this point, I'd always said I wanted to have my own business. I always wanted to be a small business owner, but I didn't know what that was. Right? I'm like, that's a great idea. What are you gonna do? I don't know. Well, that's a pretty big problem. You're like, I want to be, that's like saying I want to be a business owner. Well, what do you? That's not really the order. It's like, I want to do this. Oh, I'm going to start a business that does that. Well, so the short story is that we ended up starting to do some investment for ourselves in single family rental properties. Okay. And we bought one, we bought two, and things started to snowball slowly. And I realized that it'd be a little bit easier if I just went and got my license. I have no plans for starting a business this way. This was just, I actually joked that it was my furlough protection plan from the airline. I was like, I'm going to have some rental properties. Furlough protection plan. Next thing you know, I've got a business plan. I've got a magnetic whiteboard standing in my office, complete with a marker block with Top Gun approved Artline 500 markers.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, I've got them all over here. And I've got, next thing you know, I've got a whole business plan going. And I'm like hiring a coach and stuff like that. I'm like, holy cow, how did this happen? Because you fall into it. And so I get licensed, and I will say I fell into my first client, who's a mutual friend of ours. And then I fall into another client who's a mutual friend of ours. And I realize I'm kind of good at this thing. And I really enjoyed doing it because I realized how quick that I actually knew something about this. Yeah. My wife always gives me she's always giving me a hard time. She's like, you know more about this contract than some of the attorneys do, I think. I'm like, well, that might be a stretch, but it sure seems that way. I don't really think that.
I think your persona, right? Who you were in a prior life starts to come through. In other words, man, this is the NATOPS. I'm going to know this. I'm going to know everything that makes this thing tick. I'm not going to be caught flat-footed. And if I'm going to be a trusted resource, I'm going to de-risk this. And how I'm going to de-risk this is become more knowledgeable in navigating this space than anybody else, right? I mean, I know that's just who you are. That's, very stereotypic, look at who individuals like us are, but that's really what it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's probably no different than when you went to Amazon. You're like, this is a new culture, but I got this. All I got to do is figure out that there's a box that I have to stay within, both culturally and rules wise. And I just got to explore those edges, and I'm going to sit on, and every once in a while I'm going to push that edge a little bit. And next thing it might be a little bit different in Amazon, because they're probably like, push the hell out of the edges. Actually, now that I say that, I don't know much about Amazon. I'm always impressed by you guys who stuck it out for more than 6 months. I know people who didn't make it to Friday at Amazon.
Yeah, if you're living and even surviving, let alone thriving in that environment for anything longer than about 6 or 8 months, oh my gosh, and let alone years, man. If you make it that, your pedigree is pretty hardened. Right, for sure.
Well, that's a good point. So I'm going to turn that right around. We're talking about what gives you I guess, self-worth, what gives you value. And that's where I found real estate gave that to me. And you found the same thing in Amazon, I take it, right? At least to a point.
Yeah, to a point, right? It was, I think back on it, right? There is some idle curiosity. Hey, can we take our skill sets from 20, 25, 30 years of being America's away team, right? Taking the fight to the bad man and doing all those kind of things that we did. Does that translate, right? Does it translate into the airlines? Does it translate into real estate? Does it translate into the corporate environment? And I think the short answer is yes, it does, right? Self-awareness is important, right? Understanding that the environment that you're in may not be exactly like the one that you came from, but our strengths are still our strengths, and those are what are desired out there. But nonetheless, I did have that curiosity. Hey, can I not only survive in an environment like this, but could I thrive, by choice? And then once, you kind of reach a point where you go, hey, I can do this. I can survive in this environment. I can thrive in this environment. But now the calculus changes a little bit. Do I want to continue to do this? Or are there other challenges in the life racetrack that I want to pursue, right? And to your point, you were in the airlines. Yes, you can survive. Yes, you can thrive. You can drive that. But hey, what else is out there, right? What else may be beneficial and fulfilling for you to step in or try? And I think in my case, that's kind of the mental gymnastics that I work through. I enjoyed every second of my time at Amazon. I would never change anything. It's a heavy lift. People that I've chatted with about, it's an amazing environment. Some of the things that I just witnessed on how that company and how leadership navigates that space. The two different business verticals that I got a chance to be a part of while I was at Amazon, amazing opportunities. I'd never change anything. But again,
what were the two? Can I interrupt? What were the two business verticals you're in? You're Amazon Air, right?
So the first one that I stepped into was business vertical. It's called TRMS, Transaction Risk Management, and
that does not sound exciting. Just to be clear.
The long and the short of it is, you're building processes. How do you keep bad people from doing bad things on the platform, right? For example, right? Craig Snyder logs online, and you are going to purchase 100, 55-inch large screen TVs, right? And you're one order, boom, you're going to do that. Well, there is a thought process, an algorithm behind that says, okay, this order was placed from an IP address that Craig's never used before. Craig has never purchased a large screen TV in his life, let alone 100 of them. And so what are 100 or 1,000 of these processes in order for an individual or for a bot to make a decision? In other words, should we approve that order or not?
Right.
And it can be a lot of things. Now, maybe the algorithm, we look at it and we go, well, okay, Craig's bought 100 large screen TVs every month for the last year. This is a recognized IP address, and it's a recognized payment scheme that he's proposing. And so, yeah, we have high confidence that this is a valid order. Or the inverse of that. Dude, you've never bought anything like this before. And you know what? Somebody's going to pick up a phone and call you. Yeah. You go, hey, is this really you? Yeah. But what does that look like, right? And so that was the first, business vertical that I stepped into. And there was a steep learning curve, but it's risk management is what it is. And
which you know a lot about from the Navy. Yeah.
How much risk am I willing to assume? Which typically translate in that environment to money, right? I mean, how much are we going to risk? But then, within the first year, that intra transfer, that move, right, to the Amazon Air team, right? It was a very small team at the time, and 14, 15 people, and you step in and, it's a startup within Amazon. That's really what it was, right? And so we just started building, growing, hiring, just doing everything until we until where it's at today, right? I mean, that's really how it started. So anyway, not to make this an Amazon discussion, but
I find it interesting. I think it's a nice little dovetail because that's you keyed it off and talked about, what did you say in the beginning? Self-worth or vision? Whatever it was, where we were talking about identity. And I think that's all tied in together. Because like for me, you getting back to the real estate thing, it was, it's not that real estate's my identity. It's the basically no nonsense. There's no screwing around. We're doing this, and we're not going to be, I'm not the agent that is calling you up on Thanksgiving and say, hey, swing by the office. I'll give you a pumpkin pie, right? That's a very popular thing in my industry. Or they swing by and they give you, they call them pop buys, where they swing by and go, hey, Mike Scott's great seeing you. Here's a calendar with a refrigerator calendar with the Baltimore Ravens schedule on it. You're like, that's a thing. And believe it or not, that's really, it works, right? There's a reason they do it, because it's effective. It's not my way. I'm kind of like, hey, yeah, that's great. There are other people who are going to do that. That's not my thing. My thing is to just, Mike, Scott, what are you looking for, or what are you selling? All right, let's go do that. And I'm going to represent you to the best I can. I'm the guy who's, I always like to mention, like, one of the things I do with my clients is a habit I picked up when I was a training officer. So I was a super JO. So it was a junior 04. And I was working for I was in VF 31 at the time. Twig LeBranch was the XO, and who was Suds was the CO, right? And so I'm at this point, right? And what I determined was there was a period where we were part of CAG 14 out in Lemoore, but we were in Virginia Beach, and so every Friday they had to send an update to CAG. Makes sense, right? And so they turned around and looked at all of us, the department heads. I was not a department head. They looked at all the department heads and say, give me your inputs by Thursday. And so, of course, the OPSO turns around and looks at me and goes, hey, bro, what's going on in the training department? I'm like, well, shoot. And every week he's asking me, I'm like, hey, you keep asking me for this stuff. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, well, I got this crazy idea. I bet he's going to ask me for stuff on Thursday. What if, this is a crazy idea, what if I gave it to him before he asked me for it? And you're like, right? Who knew? You're just maturing to that level of life, right? So
you're gonna meet your needs before you ask it. Yeah,
bizarre, right? Who would have thought? So I started doing this. I'm a young junior 04, right? And I start sending a Thursday update, and I started sending it not only to the OPSO, I started sending it to the whole reading room. And at first, I would always, of course, finish it off with personal lesson of the day, which was kind of a quip on something that I did that was kind of stupid, that obviously everybody would know was dumb, and it'd be my personal lesson of the day. And I'd usually take a shot at somebody. And so there would always be shots coming back. Email wasn't nearly as prevalent in that year. It was just kind of a new thing. And so we're shooting these things around, and before you know it, it became a habit, and it stopped being funny. Well, it was still good. It was still entertaining, but it stopped being, oh, well, this is so, let's make fun of Craig. Let's make fun of Crunch. And then it became, hey man, what's the update and what's going on? And I even did shout outs. I'm like, hey, congratulations to the following people who finished their SFWT level 2, the level 3. They did this, and this. Next thing you know, people are like, hey dude, you missed me. I did that one. Let me update my tracker. Boom. And next thing you know,
they're all working for you. They're all working for you at that point. Yeah,
that's right. All of a sudden, my updates to everybody else QA'd my job. It was actually rather like, oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
I took that on to when I became a I became a department head. And at this point, I'm now working for Slave Boy. And I don't remember if he was the CO or the XO when this happened. I think he was the XO. But I'm sitting down, I'm the maintenance officer. And one Thursday, because every Thursday I'm sending this thing out to the boss, because I'm like, he's going to want it on Friday. They weren't even asking for it. I'm still sending this thing out. Yeah. And so I'm like, we really messed this up. So I do a summary. Here's everything going. I'm like, hits, misses, and where we need to improve, right? And where we need to improve. And I put this long thing in there. I hit send, and I can sit back and cross my arms. 1, 2, 3, ring, ring, ring.
Yeah.
And all he just says, what the F is going on down there? And I'm like, well, let me tell you. And I go through the whole thing. He goes, all right, got it. Well, what ended up happening is you go to the department head meetings now, and, they're going around the department head meetings, and they're just, dudes aren't pushing them information. So they're like, what's going on here? What's going on there? And then it comes to crunch, and they're like, got it, next, boom. Because they've already had their opportunity. It's one of those things. And so I've taken that habit. Of course, when I was the CEO, I was doing that to my boss, who was CAG. When I was a base CEO, I was sending it out to the admiral, right? And I just kept doing this. And
so how has that transpired and rolled into your real estate gig? I mean,
exactly. So now I have one of my value statements to my clients is I'm going to go, hey, Scott, hey, Mike, when you work for me, one of the things you're going to have is what I call a communication guarantee. The number one complaint that people have in my industry is they don't know what's going on. They feel like they're pulling teeth. They have no idea. You're never going to know what's going on with me. You will always know, because my guarantee to you is that you're going to hear from me every week by Friday at 4 p.m. And if you don't, you're encouraged to fire me. You don't owe me a penny. I don't care where we are in the process. Yeah. Right. Done. Period. Done. And that not only helps them, like, oh, okay, great. They don't realize what a big deal that is
until they're not getting that some other place. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't realize that until we do it. And I even sign it, hand it to them. Here, it's a thing I sign in color. And I've had previous clients of mine at the end of it. I had one guy who calls me up the day after closing and goes, hey man, how you doing? I go, I'm good. What's going on? He goes, I'm really going to miss hearing from you twice a week going forward. When am I going to hear from you again? I'm like, dude, you'll hear from me. It'll be good. He was joking, but he wasn't joking. Right. At the same time, he's like, dude, we became friends. I had another client. He's like, dude, I wish that this guy was a FedEx pilot, former COD guy living in Jacksonville, Florida. So he's not even close. And I'm handling his property up here. Everything's going fine. And I was continuing to give him updates. At the end, he goes, man, I wish the guy fixing my BMW gave me updates like you do.
Exactly.
Because you sit there and you
Me too. Is my Ford F-150 is in the shop today, and I have no idea when I'm getting the thing back. That's had it for 2 days.
Yeah, that's
they
right.
They don't do anything.
The closest I had to that is we had a car that got into an accident. We sent it into the body shop, and they're like, yeah, we'll be done when we're done with it. Right. And you're like, oh God. Yeah. Well, every 2 weeks they would send an update. And that was like compared to any other business. That's huge. Right. Yeah. So that's my thing that I picked up from the Navy. I said, my identity is that I'm no nonsense, and I'm going to make sure that you know what's going on. It's going to not only make sure you as my client know what's going on, but it's going to hold me accountable to making my job even that much better. That I do it so much that I'm like, just this morning before we got going, I firing off emails to people going, hey, here's what's going on. Bam, 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 bam. And I actually have a list of everybody I'm working with, and I go through it. I go through it every Monday and every Thursday and just update the heck out of everybody. And sometimes it's, hey, Scott, yeah, your Thursday update, no update.
Yeah.
Next thing for you is this on Tuesday. Got it. Have a nice day. And it's amazing how far that goes. And that's all because of lessons I learned in the Navy that a very simple lesson that I think a lot of folks would do well at if they, or would do well in their business if they did that. But it's something that I do that I picked up from the Navy. That's kind of my identity, is that I'm like, Mike, you're always going to know what's going on with me. You will always have access. And just this week, I sent out an email. There was an error in it. And one of the 5 people shot back and said, hey, man, did you really mean the 24th or the 31st? I'm like, copy paste error, right? And I'm like, I sent out an update. Well, guess what? That small error kind of snowballed later until I really got it in under control, because people didn't know what was going on. And then I introduced an error, and I had to fix it really quick. But the point is that somebody else helped me fix that error. So it was pretty good.
Yeah, I can tell just by the emotion and the passion you have. Like this, you enjoy this, right? This is fulfilling for you, right? And so many, like I said, I've alluded, a lot of our members, right, when they step into their career progression, right, and they're stepping into transition, we do spend a lot of time with them saying, listen, no fast hands on the cockpit. Do not, this is the first time in their life you've never had a set of orders. So what's the tendency? You want to grab the first thing that comes across your plate and go, man, I'm going to do this because now I've got something. And we caution them, and don't misread me here. I'm not trying to say that the first thing that comes across your plate, it might be the best thing in the world. But here's the deal. I want you to slow it down, and I want you to prove it to yourself. I still want you to work through your personal design. In other words, what's important to you in life? And is what you're now looking at, is that going to preserve these important things in your life? And if it is, does it allow you to be an effective provider? Does it allow you to stay in a geographical location? Does it allow you, are you personally satisfied, right? Do you get fulfillment from doing this? If the answer to all these things is yes, then it might be a good fit. But here's a stereotypical comment, and I feel pretty secure in making this. Our membership, right? The pedigree of the individuals that steps through the Blue Water program. If you step into something and you choose quickly, rapidly, abruptly with none of what I just described being done, and it's a poor fit for you, you will not stay.
Right.
You are confident enough, you are secure enough in who you are, and you're going to go, you know what? This is not for me. This is not what I thought it was, and I'm out, right? I'm going to step away from it. Our members will do that. They are secure in who they are, and you know who they are. They are you, Craig, right? They are me. They are Scott. That is who we are. And so we slow it down, and we just say, look, don't jump in. All right, look, I'm excited about this opportunity for you too, but let's go through the gymnastics to prove that that's a good fit for you. And there's a process, and we walk members through on how to do that. You know, the statistics will say this all day long. I can't even count the number of studies that are out there, but you know, let's just say for round numbers, there's 200,000 people that step into, leaving the military every year. It's a little more than that. All services, all ranks, it's about 240,000. Anyway, almost 50% will get fast hands in the cockpit. They will grab something and they will step in, and in less than 10 months, they will step right back out. Think about that. 100,000 people, because they don't understand the value of the process of going through this first, will step in and step out. Now, is that the end of the world? No. But is that lost revenue, lost fulfillment, right? Lost, is added time for you to find your next success? And here's a new caution that I'm going to throw out for the listeners and everybody out there. If you do that once, Craig, and step out, and then you don't embrace the process, and you have fast hand and do it again and step out, now what happens to your mental well-being? What happens to your psyche? What happens to, it's already stressful, you're going through transition, but you quickly now start getting into this, oh my God, I'm never going to find anything good again. What's going on in my life? And, it becomes a spiral, right? A death spiral, so to say. And that is just not, I don't wish that for anybody. So we just encourage our members, slow it down, go through this process. You don't have to drop anchor in the world, but there are some things I want you to work through so you understand if this is a good fit. And if it's not a good fit, I'm going to say we need to consider some other things. But I love what you did, right? I mean, you pursued the airlines. You obviously, hey, there's more to life. You were looking for some more fulfillment, some places so you can use some of these leadership skills. So what else is there? And I love the side hustle thing, right? Yeah. Tori Hegreness is another guy who does this very well, right? I mean, he is a program manager and he's pursued that very successfully. But, maybe some of the listeners recognize, right? He has his own tiki boat business right here, locally, and it's growing and thriving. And Scott and I are about ready to make another trip out on it, this coming weekend. But he's just doing fantastic. And that side hustle, much like you say, Craig, hey, it used to be a side hustle, but now it's kind of more than a side hustle. This thing is growing, right?
Did you say tiki boat?
A tiki boat, yeah.
So he's the guy. So when I'm sitting at the porch over on Long Creek, right, the tiki boat that goes by, that's his?
Yes, that's him. That's the rum
I see
shaker.
that every time I go out.
He's about ready to scale this business.
Actually, Craig, I was gonna I was going to invite you if you're free Sunday evening. That's when we're going.
Come on, Greg, come with us, man.
We'll talk out. We'll talk offline when we're done.
We're going Sunday. Come on, there's going to be a bunch of us out there. Come on.
All right, I'm in. Well, actually,
No, you're not going on a trip. You're in.
I'm flying on Sunday. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. How long is this beard? No, I'm probably working.
Oh my gosh. But we'll catch you another time. But seriously, if you're around, you should come with us. It's just a blast. It's a couple hours. He takes you out and everything. But the point is, choose wisely. Don't skip these steps. Have a purposeful design in what it is you're looking for. Then do your market analysis. And the market analysis discussion we have is, okay, these are the big rocks. This is what's important to me in life. If I do this thing that I'm looking at, does all this still stay in place? Right. Yeah. And if the answer is maybe not, well, then I'm going to say, well, then you need to give it some hard thought, right? Either that's a misaligned kind of strategy, right? Either that's not a good fit for you and you need to find and pursue something different, or this big rock in your life that you thought was the most important thing to you, maybe it's not, and you need to reevaluate this, right? It's not chiseled in stone. You just need to make sure you have alignment, right? But I just love how you pursued it. You've found fulfillment, man. You're obviously still plugged in with the airlines, but you're growing and scaling, man. Your real estate gig, and that's exciting. And Scott, you probably don't know this, but I just want to say it real quick, Craig. I love the model that we build here at Blue Water. In other words, I've experienced, just like you guys have, transition, right? We've navigated it. We found success on the other side. And, you know, one of my passions is, and all of us here at Blue Water, is we want to come back and I just want to remove that fog of war. I want to bring all that insight back. And I just want to let everybody know, hey, you don't have to transition alone. And you don't have to step into a world that it's already going to feel uncomfortable. And there's already an immense amount of stress. But you know what? We're here for you. We're an enduring partner with you, right? And we're not going to be overwhelming, but we will be enduring, and we're a resource available for you. And we do it credibly, right? Relevantly, right? And with analytics. And I can help remove that fog of war, right? In other words, if you stepped into transition today, Craig, I could say, okay, based on 400 other individuals who look just like you, who have stepped through the same process as you, here's where they're at. Here's what you can expect compensation. Here's how long it took them. Here's the type of network they needed. Like all of this analytical data that you just go, man, I've stepped into a powerful network. And it's not opinion based. It's not what I think, dude. Here's the data that we have from other individuals that are pursuing this. And along the way, Blue Water makes these relationships. Scott is a great example with us, you know, almost since day one, right? Back in January 2021, right? I can tell you what Mike Wallace did with my survivor benefit plan, thrift savings plan, and all these kind of things, just from my personal experience that I navigated this. But if you want to really know what your options are, I'm going to plug you into Scott, right? I'm going to plug you into Scott because he is that trusted resource that's available. And Scott, you know, I've really envisioned a lot of our members are moving, right? Have needs for a trusted, you know, resource like what Craig brings to the table. And Craig, you know, that is how, you know, early conversations that you and I have had, maybe even a year ago, I can tell you what I did when I sold my house or how I did it. But dude, I don't run in those circles all the time like you do, right? I want to push somebody right to you and just say, hey, Craig is a vetted, trusted resource. You know, you've got questions on this, go see him. And much like what we've done with Sarah Cummings, right, on the mental health side, right, and the executive coaching, those are the kind of relationships that I'm building because you know as well as I do, Craig, when we're stepping into transition, you know, we put ourselves last. We're going to do the job. You know, you got some boss who's counting on you. You're not going to let go of it. You're going to work right up until the last day. And then all of a sudden you're thrust out into transition and you're like, I have no network. I have, you know, I need all these resources, but I don't have them available. And now I'm like, hey, you know what? You're not alone. Here's the Blue Water family. And we've got trusted, vetted resources available for you. What do you need?
Yeah. And I'd like to piggyback on that and just kind of, talk about the network and how much that helps in a lot of different ways. And the reason I say that is I had this, it was a couple of years ago, and I said, hey, I'm going to make it a point. I'm just going to reach out, stay in touch with folks. Yeah. My goal is to just talk to, I can't remember what I said. I think it was like 25 people a week that I've known through my life, and I'm just going to stay in touch with them. I'm going to call them once a year, right? Something like that. I had my whole list, and I just started calling people, right? People I hadn't talked to in like 10, 15 years, and like, what's going on? Hey, yeah, I'm not going to help them with real estate, most likely because they live in Norma, Oklahoma, right? I mean, it's just, just talking, touching base. Well, would you believe that at the end of those 2 weeks, I had probably talked to 25, 30 guys that I had flown with in the past. That's all I had talked to. The end of those 2 weeks, I picked up in my without me asking for business, by the way. They're like, hey, what's going on? I see you're doing real estate. What's going on? Yeah, by the way, I was thinking about selling my house. How about that? I picked up 3 or 4 pieces. I think it was 4 pieces of business, 3 of which I closed throughout the next year.
Yeah.
And 2 of those guys offered me job offers, and they were more than I made in the Navy. I have received 2 job offers over the phone in 25 conversations.
Just because you reached out and kept your networking.
Just because I was talking to guys, and it was, and I will just say that to the point where I'm like, wow, and I have to say, had that job offer been there when I was getting out, they were better than I was making year one in the airline. That's for darn sure, right? Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that was just from reaching out, and I wasn't even making an ask. I mean, I was just trying to stay in touch with folks. And
we tell our members all the time, it's not just about networking. It's all about networking, right? I mean, it really is. It's the single most important thing that will turn your vision into reality, right? Is networking.
Yeah, for 100%. Yeah. I was, everybody talks about it. I'm sure you talk about it ad nauseum. I mean, I remember hearing about it when I was going through the ruling course or whatever it was back in the Navy. They all talk about it. I'm like, yeah. Network. I get it. And it wasn't really until I just made those 2 weeks of phone calls just to stay in touch with folks.
Sure.
And I was like, I cannot believe the level of support that your network gives you, and you don't even ask for it. Just like if people call me up, I had a call like that yesterday. I had a friend of mine that I hadn't talked to in several years, and he calls me up, says, hey, my business is changing. I'm looking for some assistance. I'd like your insight. Boom. I'm like, well, happy to help. And next thing you know, we went through a bunch of things, and I said, you didn't ask for my opinion on this, but I think you should do this. And next thing you know, he's like, that's a great idea. Let me look into that. Right. And it's just one of those things where people call you and you call them, and you don't even realize how valuable your network is until you activate it. And there's nothing to do other than here's the problem though, is some people feel personally, and this is a personal problem you might have, that you feel like, hey, I'm picking up the phone to call Mike. Mike's going to think I'm being shady. I'm up to something, that there's a unstated reason for my call. I mean, the level of excuses that people make for themselves of why they don't pick up the phone and network is actually kind of astounding. And not because they're bad. It's just a personal viewpoint of the world. Like, I had this one guy who we were working with. He was new to real estate. I'm like, dude, start networking. You're going to get a lot of business that way. And he couldn't do it. He could not pick up the phone. He's like, I can't call those people. They'll know that I'm trying to sell them on something. I'm like, but you're not. You're just calling to say hi. He's like, I don't understand that. And you're like, dude, just pick up the phone and call. And there's so much. And what's that?
No, I was going to say, Scott, that you kind of had a question early on, right? And you wanted to make sure that, we were talking about what are Craig's big efforts that he has in getting the word out on his side hustle, right? How you navigate that. And, you're already confirming kind of what we already thought. Networking is a big part of that. But you've got a beautiful website too, and I know Scott's got it pulled up. No, it's beautiful, man. It's a great website. So
it looks even better on a desktop. The desktop version is amazing. The phone version is great. The desktop's incredible. I love it.
It's great, and we all have to kind of do battle with. There it is, right there. Yeah, no, it's beautiful, dude. And I love how you kind of tie your your previous life in with your current brand. You got your beautiful bride there, or I should say your boss.
Sometimes.
Yeah, and it's just amazing, right? And so, in your business, in your side hustle, you have to step into, right, the social media world, right? You're active on that. I know you post a lot on Instagram, right? And so I always see you kind of out there in the social media awareness, and that's just where you have to be in this day and age, right? People want information, and they want it available to them. And but no, beautiful site, dude. Well, it's good. I don't know if I captured all that, Scott. I know you had some other thoughts on it, but
no, I mean, I think you guys hit it. Because even when I got started being self-employed, I couldn't pick up the phone. I was too scared. So I would pay a bunch of money to go sponsor a golf tournament, and then do the more embarrassing thing of standing out there on the first tee trying to give away a gift certificate to get names. And then I'd call those people, because at least they'd chat me up. Oh, what do you do? I had some some permission. Like I had this, we call it imposter syndrome. And so that happens obviously when you're coming out, you guys talk about identity. It's just like this all ties in. And Craig, I mean, your method, it's like, I wish I had the confidence to just, hey, what are you up to now, dude? Like, just start calling around. People are going to be in their different positions in their heads, and realize, hey, and maybe some of them don't pick up because they do think you're trying to get something. Yeah. It's just like, I don't know what to do about that. We're all just trying to, find our new purpose, passion, figure out what I like to say is, how am I going to spend my time to improve my new talents, new skill sets, to ultimately, get the treasure I need to, go on with life, to buy back more of the time so I can invest in more talents. And it's just a little circle. So you need the money to have the freedom so you can actually figure it out. What do you do? What fills you up during that time, and usually for people like us, it means some form of increase. It's so ironic that we say retirement right in the middle of life. It's just the wrong word. It's just the form of, it's
a career progression, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep
so many of you are going to be going on and doing. I mean, you guys have both. I mean, you could talk about Tori building a tiki boat business. Mike, you backed away from Amazon and created Blue Water. And so, Craig, your real estate story that's why I was just sitting here in awe as the Army guy, just watching you guys tell us so many lessons learned there. Honestly, it was captivating. I'm not joking. You probably go back and watch the video and watch me just like, wow, this is so. No, I really appreciate you guys going deep there. I think a lot of people will gather insights there, but we're coming up on an hour. We got plenty of time if you guys have any points you want to hit, but
you want to go around the room and just, what do you got going on, Scott, with US VetWealth? What's going on in your world?
Big thing for us is my business partner Mike's flying out, and we're doing our little tiki boat thing. So just as a personal thing, we've been remote. While I'm local to this area, I've been doing this remote thing since 2010 when I was living in Europe. So it's always nice to kind of reconnect with people that you usually only see on Zoom. So actually meet them in person. So I'm looking forward to that, hitting up your networking event this afternoon. And then I'm launching my new masterclass. I'm calling it the how to build a war chest in a wartime economy.
I love it.
I think this has been coming for years. I'm in the insurance business. We're all about you got to talk about risk management. Yeah, that's essentially all we do. We just do it a different way and for different reasons at US VetWealth, and just happens to align good for, survivor benefit plan alternatives, TSP alternatives, things like that. But I think we all understand we're in interesting times. I saw a report this morning that Xi Jinping had a stroke yesterday. You guys see that?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen
it. I don't know if I just saw a random thing, but it seemed odd. So that would ruffle more feathers.
Well, was it really yesterday? Was it really a stroke?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So many questions.
There's, it's just like, who knows what's, it's that's the thing. If those things get out, it's just a wild time. So it tends to be that real estate markets, things change. So it's good to have, good people in your corner to talk to. So look forward to that coming out. Love to get your guys' thoughts on that presentation.
You bet.
No, cool. It's busy summer, busy year. And,
Craig, one of the things that, I just love having Scott a part of the team here as a trusted, relevant, credible source to push people to is, I think back on my own survivor benefit plan discussion. I mean, I think it was after TAP, somebody came in the room. It was this big fear mongering. You have to take this. If you're not going to take this, you got to have your wife sign this paper. And it was just this big. And I would love to tell you, I made an informed decision. Scott's heard me articulate this a number of times, but I just didn't warm up to the fear mongering pressure push on it. And I just stepped away and I said, I'm not doing that. Now, for me, that ended up being the right decision. But here's the takeaway. It wasn't an informed decision. It was an emotional, you're not pushing me into this. And I love having Scott as a resource to members just to go, hey, let's go to the whiteboard. Let's just break out the Artline 500s, right? And let's just analytically talk about what this is. And is this a good decision for you, right? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And if it's not, here's some other options. And I love, likewise, I feel comfortable, if members are in need of real estate service, man, you run in those circles, you do that, right? And I'm excited to build these relationships in the Blue Water Network, in the professional networking space, so that we can have these credible resources available. And so anyway, just wanted to share that with you. Hey, real quick, Scott, you already hit the nail on the head as we're coming up on an hour. I'll see if I can talk quick here. Networking event later today, right? Warriors Tap House. Thanks to Dave Kohler. Got a caller for hosting us, right? They always do a fantastic job at Warriors Tap House, taking care of the Blue Water team. For everybody out there, we do it once a quarter. So we'll knock this one out today. We'll do another one probably early October, and then one towards the end of the year, right, in December. And it's a great way to just come together, talk with members that are in the network or those that have landed out there, share insights, build your network out as well too. We've got about 28 people that are registered today. We'll see how many schedule support people actually showing up. But we're really excited about this. So look forward to seeing you guys later today. July 31st, Wednesday, right? We're totally booked, right? Our next cohort, the end of this month, coming up quickly. Man, not only are we full, we overbooked by one, and I've got a standby list of 5 people wanting to get into this. So look, it breaks my heart. I cannot tell you, we'll schedule these events and people will wait till like 2 weeks prior going, hey, I tried to register for your event 2 weeks out. And listen, we are almost full throughout the end of the year. We are full in July and have been for the last 90 days. July's been sold out. We're headed to Tailhook in August. Our September 11th event up at Annapolis for the Naval Academy Alumni Association, completely full and sold out. October 30th, I've got maybe 2 seats available. Even our December 4th end of year cohort back here in Norfolk, as we get back from DC in October, I think I've got 2 or 3 seats available. So if you're listening and you want to be a part of the Blue Water family and the team and join this network and have access to these keen insights, don't wait. I mean, these events fill up and they're small group, high touch by design. So, we're not doing large groups of 50, 60 people. That's not what this is, right? This is a family where we have slow, methodical, controlled growth, and we're going to grow this into an effective, efficient network that serves all of our needs for today and tomorrow. But we're going to be a part of that. And the only way we can do that right, is do it slow, methodical, right? And so we're excited to do that. So anyway, happy to kind of be headed that direction. I've got to get busy already cranking out the schedule for 2025. Can you believe it? So, man, that's just right around the corner, right? We're already halfway through this year. So, Craig, what do you got on your plate, man? Tell us what's going on in the real estate space and your world.
Well, in the real estate space, things are great. We're still doing personal deals. We just closed on another investment property for ourselves just 2 days ago. So we are still actively buying in today's market despite the interest rates, and that's with our own money. We are we've got a couple of closings coming up this week where we got some clients coming from, one client coming from Italy, another coming from Meridian, Mississippi, coming back to the area. Wow. And we got got another client who's he's getting some orders, who's actually going down to Meridian, Mississippi. So I got a whole bunch of folks who are coming and going. We do specialize in residential real estate, and specifically we do a lot of business with active and retired military members, folks facing PCS or retirement to move type scenarios. We obviously do work with a lot of other folks, but those are the people that we specialize in because let's face it, those are the folks that we know and they know us. Business is good. Can always be better, of course. The big question I get frequently is how's the market? Interest rates remain high. Powell has suggested that interest rates are going to be coming down over the next 12, 18 months, right? So we're anticipating that. And
what are they right now? If you mind me asking.
If you are
like a first-time home buyer or
let's say first-time home buyer with a VA loan, you're probably talking 6%, and I can point you in the direction of somebody who can get you a 6% as a primary residence. I just closed on an investment property where I did a 10-6 SOFR ARM at 6.875 amortized over 30 years with a 10-year balloon. That's for an investment property, so 6.875. So interest rates are definitely under 7. Unless you get into the jumbo, there are some scenarios where it's above 7, but it is still, interest rates are higher than they were. I anticipate they're going to come down. So what does that mean? If interest rates are going to come down, what's going to happen to home prices? They're going up. So if you are sitting on the fence as a seller, it is something to consider. You go, hey, do I sell today? Do I sell tomorrow? If you're unsure, go with what works best for you because tomorrow's still going to work. There's no crash coming. Do the timeline that works best for you. And if you're a buyer, start looking sooner. Don't necessarily wait to go on the timeline that works for you. I would go sooner rather than later. And that's not because it helps me. That's because it helps you. Because if you're a buyer and you say, hey, interest rates are too high, all I can afford is $400,000 home, then go buy a $400,000 home today because in a year it's going to be $425,000, right? Yeah. Don't hold me to that. That's please don't say that that's a guarantee, but that is not unrealistic that the home price is going to go up and it's only going to become more expensive going forward, even at a lower interest rate. So again, as a seller, do the timeline that works best for you. As a buyer, I would buy sooner rather than later. As an investor, in the words of the professional investors, always be buying. And I could show you a chart where it shows you that the best time to invest in real estate is when interest rates are high, and when interest rates are low is actually not the best time, although it feels good. When, you know what they say, the stock market climbs a wall of fear, the real estate market is the same way, right? So that's my two shakes on the market.
Thanks for the update. Hey, I want to take you back to, we tried this services link and everything. I think Scott and I have broke the code on that. I think Sarah Cummings and I have broke the code on that as far as how Blue Water members can get more out of the services that you're offering. So let's revisit this. Let's talk offline. Yeah. Would love to kind of do that. Right. And one other quick pitch before we're out of time, Blue Water Digital, right? We're still tracking to launch that program. And having a conversation this Friday with our primary programmer team, who's headquartered here in Virginia Beach, but our actual individual doing the work is out of Houston. Individual by the name of Jim Gergen. Marathon Consulting is the company that's doing this for us. And man, he has just been hit from storm after storm after storm, flooding, ripping the drywall out of his house. He's been out without power recently here for the last week and a half. So it's kind of slowed down a little bit, but we're about ready to kind of get it back up on step and tracking. So I'm really excited for that effort. So thanks, Scott, for hosting this and putting this together. And thanks, Craig, for joining us. Scott, I'll give you last words, man. What do you got?
No, thank you guys. Appreciate again sharing some deep personal insights today, and I think it was really, really inspiring for guys that just are coming out having a lot of questions. I think one of the things for me in 15 years of talking to military retirees, I've just had hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations of each person always hitting their, for them it's day one, right? And it doesn't matter how. I've heard so many different versions of it, but it's nice to kind of go back and remember what it was like, to hear your experience from being in that, oh my gosh, this is happening right now. We got to deal with it. Hey, I'm going to figure it out. And so really cool stuff, guys.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we will call it a day for now. Appreciate everybody listening. Obviously reach out if you have any thoughts or questions. Hey, if you'd like to come on and share stories with us, I think this is the kind of conversation where the real golden nuggets come out of it. So if you got something you'd like to share, we'd really
reach out
with you. Yeah. All right, guys, we will see you this afternoon.
Thanks, gents.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.